All right, let's dive into Christopher Nolan's 2010 masterpiece, Inception. You know, the film that didn't just bend our minds, it pretty much folded them into a pretzel, leaving one single nagging question that we've been arguing about for over a decade. You know the one. Is it? It's still spinning? I mean, that one final shot launched 1,000 conspiracy theories. But to really get to the bottom of that ending, we've got to go all the way back to the beginning of the dream. So, here's our game plan. We'll start with where this crazy idea even came from, then meet the architects who built these impossible worlds. We'll break down the all-important rules, see how the film hit the real world, and then, finally, we're gonna tackle that lingering question. So, let's start at the top. Okay, Section 1, Genesis of the Dream. You gotta wonder, where does a concept this complex even begin? Well, as it turns out, this was a dream that was about a decade in the making. Get this, Christopher Nolan first pitched the idea for Inception way back in 2002. But here's the kicker. He knew he wasn't ready to make it yet. He felt like he needed more experience with massive, big-budget movies to really do it justice. So he put his dream project on the shelf, went off to completely reinvent Batman for a new generation, and then came back almost 10 years later, ready to build his masterpiece. And believe it or not, the movie he eventually made was totally different from his first idea. Originally, Nolan pictured Inception as a straight-up horror movie about dream stealers. But he felt like something was missing. It needed more heart. So, in a stroke of genius, he reframed the whole thing as a heist film. That familiar structure was like a lifeline for the audience, giving us something to hold on to while our minds were being blown. On to part 2, Architects of the Impossible. This is where it gets really fun. See, to make us, the audience, truly believe in the dream, Nolan knew he had to build it for real. Nolan's whole philosophy was pretty simple. If you want the audience to feel it, you have to build it. So instead of just leaning on a bunch of CGI, he was obsessed with using practical, in-camera effects whenever he could. He wanted to make all the surreal stuff feel totally tangible, physical, and 100% real. And that commitment was pushed to the absolute limit with that now famous rotating hallway scene. Nolan himself called the set an incredible torture device for actor Joseph Gordon-Levitt. The physical toll was massive, but the result? A sequence that feels genuinely confusing and dizzying, because it is. What you're seeing isn't a computer trick, it's really happening. I mean, the engineering was just staggering. They built this 100-foot-long hotel hallway and stuck it inside these huge, powerful rings, basically turning it into a giant human centrifuge. Joseph Gordon-Levitt wasn't just acting like he was fighting on the walls and ceiling. He spent weeks training to actually fight gravity in a giant spinning room. That's the kind of dedication that makes a scene unforgettable. And this build-it-for-real approach went way beyond just one set. Oh no, they took this show on the road, all over the world, really. They shot in 6 different countries to give every single dream level its own unique look and feel, from the rain-soaked streets of Tokyo all the way to that snowy mountain fortress in Canada. Okay, so we know how they built the world. Now for Section 3, the rules of the dream. Because let's be honest, for a movie this complex, not to completely collapse on itself, it needs a solid set of rules. So how does this whole thing actually work? Let's start with the title itself, Inception. Now, it's not about stealing an idea. The movie says that's easy. No, this is about planting one. The perfect crime. It's supposed to be impossible, this idea of getting into someone's head and making them believe that an idea you created is actually their own. Then you've got the place you never, ever want to end up, limbo. This isn't just another dream. It's this terrifying shared space of just raw, unfiltered subconscious. If you die in a dream while you're heavily sedated, you don't wake up. You just fall. You fall into this abyss where you could be trapped for what feels like an actual eternity. And this brings us to the most mind-bending rule of them all, how time works. Every time you go a layer deeper into a dream, time slows down like crazy. So 5 minutes on one level could be a whole hour on the next. This whole time dilation thing is what makes the heist possible, but it's also what makes limbo so absolutely terrifying. A couple of minutes in the real world could feel like a whole lifetime trapped down there. All right, let's wake up for Section 4, the film's impact. So, with this incredibly ambitious, super complicated blockbuster, did audiences actually connect with it? The answer was a huge, resounding yes. I mean, commercially, Inception wasn't just a success. It was a global phenomenon. It was made for about $160 million, and it pulled in almost $840 million worldwide. It was like a giant signal to Hollywood that, yeah, audiences are absolutely starving for smart, original blockbusters. And the Academy definitely took notice. It got a nomination for Best Picture and took home 4 Oscars. And here's the cool part. Look at what it won for. Cinematography, sound editing, sound mixing, visual effects. It was a total validation of all that incredible practical work that went into building its unforgettable world. And the critics were right there with the audiences, giving it an 87% certified fresh on Rotten Tomatoes. So, at the end of the day, Inception pulled off that rare Hollywood hat trick. It was a massive box office hit, the critics loved it, and it became a fan favorite that people would argue about for years and years. And all that arguing brings us full circle, back to Section 5, the lingering question. Back to that spinning top, that sudden cut to black. Was Cobb finally home safe, or was he still lost somewhere in a dream?
So let's just picture it one last time. Cobb is finally home. He sees his kids' faces. He pulls out his totem, that little spinning top, and gives it a flick on the table to check if he's in reality. But then, he doesn't wait to see if it falls. He just walks away to hug his children. The camera stays on the top. It spins, it wobbles just a tiny bit, and then, bam, cut to black.
So what does the man himself, Christopher Nolan, have to say? Well, he basically says we're all asking the wrong question. For him, the point of the scene isn't whether the top falls over or not. The point is that Cobb turns his back on it. He doesn't care anymore. He's chosen his reality, which is his kids, and for him, that emotional truth is way more important than any physical one. But look, for those of us who just want a straight answer, we can always turn to Sir Michael Caine. He offers a really simple rule of thumb that Nolan apparently told him directly. Any scene that Michael Caine's character is in is reality. And since he's right there in that final scene to welcome Cobb home, well, that would mean Cobb really made it. But ultimately, I think it's Nolan's point that really sticks with you. Maybe the ending isn't a puzzle we're supposed to solve. Maybe it's more like a mirror. It's designed to make us ask a question about ourselves. If you finally found the one thing that made you happy, would you keep checking to make sure it was real? It's something to think about.